Okay, here we are. Let's do this. Kristen Genovese here, and what you are going to hear about tonight is how to not have cravings. So if you're here, most likely you saw a picture of me flexing on the internet in a sports bra. And if that's what got you here, awesome, because what we're going to talk about tonight absolutely changed my life. I'm not being dramatic at all. I've been known to be dramatic, but I'm not being dramatic. This absolutely changed my life. And my relationship with food. Okay, so I've always just struggled to maintain my weight ever since I was young. I grew up in a household where we cooked a lot of meals. I wasn't a stranger to Whole Foods, but I struggled with sweets big time. And we'll talk about the different foods that act like sugar in our bodies. I'm straight up sugar, chocolate girl. And I was I would eat healthy. I could eat really healthy meals. I knew how to do that. I just was the one, I was the girl that instead of eating one Oreo, I would eat the entire row. And I struggled with that for a really, really long time until I heard what you're going to hear tonight. So I'm super jazzed about you being here. And I hope that we get a lot of good questions so we can do some good Q&A and make this practical for you as well. So before we get started, I have just a couple of things I want to point out. If you're new to Google Hangouts on air, I am not going to be able to see you, but there are a couple of cool things we're going to be able to communicate. So up in the right-hand corner of your screen, there should be a little 9-square matrix. And if you click on it, you should see two things. The first one, or well, whatever order they're in, is Showcase. And if you click on Showcase, there are a couple of links I've included. I'm going to refer to them later, and that way, easy. If I refer to it and you have more interest, you can click on it. It'll take you to a different website. One of them's a YouTube video, and one of them's my website, one of my websites. So the other is, if you click on that matrix, is the Q&A. And that's where we can chat back and forth. You can ask questions. I can answer them. We're going to have, I want you to ask questions anytime. And I'll either stop and answer it, or we'll take a break right in the middle where I'm going to take some Q&A and just answer your questions. Today there is, I feel kind of silly with the whiteboard. I feel kind of silly with the whiteboard, but if I were to do slides and screen share and do slides for this, I wouldn't be able to see the Q&A. And really what we're going to talk about today, the actual science and conceptual part of it, isn't very long, and I want us to be able to be more in conversation. So I'm going to use a whiteboard, and I'm going to evaluate and draw and get all fancy on you. Okay, so once again, I'm Kristen. Thank you for being here. This is Craving Free. What this has allowed me to do, if you're just joining us at the start, I outed myself as a sugar addict. I am not a one Oreo girl. I'm a whole sleeve of Oreos girl. So what this has allowed me to do, though, is to still really enjoy food, but understand kind of the chemistry and the science behind what I'm putting in my body, so as to be able to make better choices, because I'm not fighting those cravings. Okay, cravings are really real. That's why I call this Craving Free. Oftentimes people want to start eating healthier, and there's so much information out there about how to do that. And so even if you've found some good information and you want to start eating healthier, so often people try to make a switch or some changes, and they run into those cravings, and they're real. And they think, oftentimes we beat ourselves up because we think we just don't have the willpower or the discipline to make the better choices. But I'm going to tell you why that's not always the case. So I'm going to get into some the science of it and draw some stuff out here on my whiteboard. But then we'll come back for some Q&A, and then I'm going to dive back into just a little bit more of practical application. So if you're just coming on, remember to click on the matrix up top and hit Q&A if you want to type in a question for me to answer. Probably the other thing that I love the most about what we're about to talk about is that it's not a diet. We're just going to understand how food acts in our body when we eat it. And so there's no cheating. This isn't like a diet and you get off the diet and so then you don't know whether to start again. It's a really different system, and I'll explain why. The other thing I love about it is that it works no matter whether you're vegan or vegetarian or gluten-free or dairy-free. This isn't about what foods you put in your body. It's about in what combination you put in your body. So we'll talk about that, but that's what I love about this. It's not a diet, and it works kind of no matter what maybe food specific stuff you have going on. It's just about fueling your body so that it releases weight, so that it doesn't hold on to what it's got. Okay, so we're going to dive into this. So the very first thing I do want to mention though, before I get into further, because what we're going to, so there's such a thing called a macronutrient and micronutrient and macronutrient. This is tripping me up a little bit because what I'm writing on here looks backwards to me. Can someone just hop into the Q&A and tell me whether they can read this or if I need to write backwards? I'm sure you can read it. So the first thing I just want to touch on very briefly is micros versus macros. So when we're nourishing our body, there are micronutrients, which are like our vitamins, antioxidants, minerals, vitamin C, vitamin D. Oh, it's readable. Thank you. Those are micronutrients. Okay. Our cells need a lot of micronutrients. So just before I dive into the macro piece of this, I am going to give you my 2 cents on this because it's a big piece of kind of how I pick what I eat and how I make my meals. I take a supplement. I take supplements for my micros. And that's a whole nother conversation about whether you think supplements are necessary, and they absolutely are. But I take a multivitamin, I take my micros in a supplement form. I also get them from my food, but when I take my micros in a supplement form, it frees me up to have more ease in planning my meals because I'm not worried about, oh, well, have I gotten any vitamin A today? Or I need more. But our cells need a lot more nutrients. Just the amount and just the wide variety of what our cells need, we can't get through our food. Even if you were just eating a perfect, beautiful diet. And also, I don't want to have to figure that out. What that is, what nutrients and what food they're in and how much I need, okay? And we need way more than we can eat. So I suggest taking a supplement. I suggest supplementing for your vitamins, antioxidants, and minerals. What that leaves is macronutrients, and that's what we're gonna talk about today. So macronutrients are proteins. I hope that's not too small. I have horrible handwriting too, but it is what it is. Healthy fats, okay, healthy, I'm going to put healthy in parentheses, but fats, good fats, and complex carbs. Am I getting too low? Complex carbs. Okay, so tonight, what we're talking about, the micronutrients give our cells what they need to stay healthy and help support all the functions our bodies are designed to do brilliantly. And the macros fuel our body. Okay, these are for energy and for consumption, right? Our body uses them up and they're gone and we need more, just like we need, you don't take vitamin C once a month and you're done. Okay, we need them daily. These are our fuel. And we're going to talk about how to make sure we're getting those in all our meals. So, and this is really, really important because, well, yeah, so let's dive into it. I don't know if anybody's taking notes or anything, but micros versus macros. So tonight, it's all about macros. I feel so old school with this whiteboard. So tonight we're talking about macros. This is why it's important. This is how it's relevant for what we're going to talk about. This is actually not that much information. It's a lot of information, but it's not that much. Let me tell you all this, Ask questions if you have them and we'll answer them. We're gonna totally dissect this and make it applicable. But so what this is your blood sugar. Okay, this is like your ideal blood sugar range. This is your high and low blood sugar range. And when we have all of the macros present, so if we eat a meal that has protein, fats, and complex carbs, I'm gonna write those up here again. These are our macros: proteins, fats, and complex carbs. By the way, I think I said in one of my posts, I'm clearly not an expert. Well, I'm an expert in my own world, right? But I've learned from some of the best scientists I've learned this from. So what I'm better at is using non-sciencey verbiage to explain this to people. So I can, if you would like to, if you're a science person and you want to hear all the science lingo, one of my mentors, Dr. Karen Wolf, does a brilliant presentation on this as well that I can send you if you're interested. You just let me know, text me or email me or whatever. So these are our macros: proteins, fats, complex carbs. Because I'm not the scientist, I don't know in what order this happens. But the beautiful thing is if we eat a balanced meal, so right here we're eating, all three of those things hit our blood sugar at a different time. Okay, so a balanced meal keeps your blood sugar level, like within the ideal range where your body wants it, longer. You feel fuller longer, and you're in the ideal. This is ideal. I'm giving you the ideal first. This is ideal. The other thing I wanted to mention is, we're going to talk about this too, is fiber. And fiber is kind of the X factor in this, because the more fiber you have in your meal, the slower your food enters your blood stream. The slower all the sugars get in there, the longer your body has to kind of break it down. So the more fiber you have, the more this process kind of slows down too. I wanted to give you the ideal first. I'm going to show you, unfortunately, what this actually looks like for most of us. So I don't know what you have for breakfast. Standard American diet, oftentimes people, there are a lot of different common, unfortunately, somebody might have a grande caramel latte without eating anything. Somebody might have a bagel and a cup of milk. Somebody might have, or worse, a cup of orange juice. But what often happens is we get up in the morning, we have our breakfast, and if we don't have all of these macros or any of them, if you have cereal, this is what's happening. You eat, and your blood sugar goes up above really where your body wants it. And because you don't have all of this beautiful blend of all of our macronutrients, we end up running out of food or running out of fuel sooner than when we should really probably need to eat again. And our blood sugar drops lower than ideal. And I'm generalizing, obviously, but what we're talking about tonight is usually only talked about with people who are diabetic. And unfortunately, so many of us, because we don't understand this, we're doing this all day long. And this is really stressful. This is really, really stressful on our bodies. A couple of things happen. Every time we spike, okay, and we get up too high, our body releases insulin to bring it back down. Insulin is a fat storage hormone, because if you have more sugar in your bloodstream than your body needs, insulin says, take that extra sugar, store it over here for when we might need it later. If it sends it to your muscles and your muscles don't need it, your body stores it. Okay, this is a fat storage hormone. When we crash, which we too often do, cortisol kicks in. Okay, everybody knows cortisol. This is our fight or flight hormone. And cortisol is like, this is really stressful. Your blood sugar is too low. We might starve. We don't know when we'll get food next. Your body internally is thinking all of those things. And what cortisol does, it makes us crave. If you hear anything tonight, I want you to hear this. When our blood sugars get too low, it makes us crave high glycemic, sugary, easily digestible foods that'll get our blood sugar back up quick. Because our body is stressed. This is crisis in our body. And cortisol says, get it up, girl, get it up. Grab that candy bar, grab that, whatever it is, and get your sugars back up. And so what do? We grab the candy bar and we go, and we do this over and over and over. So I am not a doom and gloom girl. This is really, really powerful, right? So when we're down here too, if anybody who's listening will know, when our blood sugars are high, we all know there's a crash, but it feels pretty good when you're really up, when you're up really high, oftentimes. Low feels really, really awful. So we have cravings. It's that like, whenever I'm going to get to food, I'm going to eat as much as I can, as fast as I can. Oftentimes when when I let my blood sugar get this low, by the time I do eat, even if I eat a balanced, good meal, I'm just insatiable. I don't feel like my body, there's something about it that doesn't trigger in my brain to stop eating, or that I'm full, or that it's very bizarre. Your body's really stressed here. This whole thing will set you up to, this is pre-diabetes right here. Because a couple of things happen. The stress in our lives, we all have enough cortisol to go around. Again, this is a fat storage hormone. I forgot this piece, because when our hormone, I don't know what I'm doing. When our blood sugars drop that low, cortisol says, get her the sugary foods. And also when you get it, stock it away, because we don't know when this is going to happen next. So this whole system is telling your body, store the fat, store the fat, store the fat. And so, or store it in the fat. This is really, really stressful. This causes inflammation. It'll cause weight gain around the center. And these cravings, these cortisol cravings are real. This is why I say this is such powerful information, because oftentimes people really have very good intentions to make a healthy switch. They might eat well for a while, and they're on this roller coaster and can't get off. And those cravings are real. Those low blood sugar cravings are real. Okay, so I don't have any questions right now. I just kind of want to let that sit in for a second. I'm going to just take a break for just a second. Like I said, I'm not a scientist expert. I have practiced this now for 7 years, and I've never felt better. I am a food lover. I am a dessert lover. What I've learned how to do is to eat to stay here most of the time. I started out our talk tonight saying this is not a diet and you can't cheat. Okay, our body is designed, the insulin and cortisol kicking in, we are designed to kind of regulate this if we spike or crash every once in a while. We're just not designed to do it 6 times a day. Okay, so our bodies are every once in a while spiking your blood sugar or having a big old bowl of ice cream with fudge or whatever you want to do is okay. There's not a cheating here. It's really a little bit more of an art than a science, which I know you probably don't want to hear because we all just want the solutions. But this is an art. This is playing around with these macros and the foods you like and figuring out how to feel full or longer. You'll have better energy. You won't crash. You won't have those cravings. I find that when I start my day with a nice balanced low glycemic meal, so when a meal has all those 3 macros, we call it low glycemic because it has a real easy effect on our blood sugars. It doesn't, high glycemic things are the ones that'll spike you outside of that comfortable range. I have found that when I start my day with a low glycemic meal, I eat better the whole rest of the day. I have better energy. I'm not starving at lunch. I don't make poor decisions at lunch because I'm down in this area here. So this is really powerful, but it's an art. It's a practice. Okay. I've been practicing this for 7 years. So, how did you start to switch your mentality? Which is your biggest hurdle to change the course of how you eat and your family? Okay. So we're going to touch on all this. I have a couple of different, kind of additions to this, and we're going to make it real practical. I'm going to tell you kind of what I eat, and how for my, okay. I want to touch on all your stuff, Lindsay. Okay. And also I'm going to thank you both for telling me that, that you can read my screen and that it's not backwards for you. I figured it wasn't, but really. Okay, so I'm going to answer that in a couple of different parts because now that we know how to kind of stay steadier by having those 3 macros balanced in our meals, let's talk about what that looks like. So that's why I said this when we started. The other thing I love about this is it doesn't matter if you're vegan or vegetarian. You know, there are all kinds of different sources for proteins and fats. My family, just so you know, we're meat eaters. I've cut back dramatically on my red meat. Well, I can't say dramatically. My husband's, we're meat eaters. The nice thing about meat, high quality meat as a protein, is that it usually has some really high quality fats with it, or not high quality, but healthy fats with it. So when we eat meat, we tend to get kind of the protein and fat together, and then your vegetables are your complex carbs. This is why the paleo diet works, by the way, for the most part, is because if you're just eating a ton of vegetables and a little bit of some really nice protein, you're getting your proteins, your fats, and your complex carbs and your fiber all in your meal. So we're meat eaters. So when I give my examples, you'll know that's a piece of how I balance our meals. We do a lot of hummus. We do a lot of nuts. This is why nuts are a superfood. Protein, healthy fats, tons of fiber. That's why nuts are, you can eat nuts by themselves, low glycemic. So the other thing that I do love about being able to eat this way and to use this perspective is that I don't calorie count. I don't like that at all. I know that it works for some people to lose weight. The nice thing about this is once you're pretty practiced, it's really hard to eat more than you need calorie-wise. And I bring that up because nuts are so awesome. We do a lot of cashews around here because they're softer and easier for my kids to eat. But you know, a lot of times people say, oh, but not, you know, cashews have so much fat, or there's a lot of calories in you know, a handful, or overeating nuts. And if you're really doing this well, it's really hard to overeat and get too many calories from anything, really. You know, avocados, sometimes every once in a while I hear people say that it's, you know, to watch how much eat all the avocado you want. That's a healthy, great fat. It's good for brain development. It's awesome if you're nursing. It's great for kids. I did avocado in a lot of my kids' food to get that healthy fat, and they love them, thankfully. Okay, so I'm going to read Lindsay's question one more time. I'm just going to answer your question, and then I'm going to walk through a couple more things. So switching my mentality, I will say one of the hardest things for me is I still do really enjoy sweets and chocolate. I do. I've just learned how to enjoy them and manage them well using this model. So I'll give you a couple of tips and tricks for that right now, if that's cool, and then I'll go on to the second part of your question. I still do enjoy sweets. A couple of things. So now that we know, I wish I could still have our little blood sugar thing up here. So now that we know how this blood sugar thing works, a couple of things to consider. If you're going to eat sweets, don't do it on an empty stomach, because you don't have this base of things going in to keep you. If you have an empty stomach, you're like at ground zero fasting, you get up in the morning and you have something really high glycemic, or you've, had a big lunch and didn't snack in the afternoon, and by dinner time, you're hungry and dinner's not ready or whatever, and you grab something high glycemic, not nutrient dense, there's just nowhere to go but up. There's nothing else there's no fiber to slow it down. There aren't those other pieces to keep it from to keep you from crashing. So number one tip and trick is don't have high glycemic stuff on an empty stomach. So I do still enjoy, it was just my daughter's birthday, I still enjoy a piece of cake. High glycemic foods on empty stomach. I still do enjoy a piece of cake. I just make sure that I've had a real nice balanced meal before. And that's probably the only time I am careful about, I guess, calories or quantity, if you will, is I just am conscious that, if I'm gonna really enjoy cake that night, I might eat a really balanced meal, but eat a little less, or eat a couple of smaller meals throughout the day, so that I'm not, and that's the other thing I guess I was gonna say about nuts is people say, well, almonds have, or nuts have so many calories in them. Well, if you're eating them as a, mid-morning snack and you've had a huge breakfast and a huge lunch, the calorie load will get to be a lot. But if you're eating these balanced meals, your calorie load shouldn't be high. And you're staying, your blood sugar is staying stable, and you shouldn't overeat the nuts. Anyhow, that's calorie thing. But so number one trick is just don't eat high glycemic foods on an empty stomach. And that goes for alcohol too. Don't drink alcohol on an empty stomach, because that'll spike you for sure. Two is I play, after dinner sometimes I'll still want a sweet, and I have found over the 7 years I've practiced this, my taste buds have shifted a little bit, and I don't go for an Oreo anymore. That's too processed. And if I'm gonna enjoy my sugars, I make sure they're really awesome, rich, good, like a sweet. My go-to easy is chocolate covered almonds. I'll have a couple after dinner. I do dark chocolate covered almonds. And okay, mom says, yeah. So dark chocolate covered almonds are a nice treat for after dinner because I'm still getting protein, fat, fiber. You just can't almost overeat them because you'll feel full, especially if you've already had dinner. But I get my little chocolate fix. So I kind of experiment with either higher fiber sweets or higher just nutrient dense sweets. Like if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, I'm trying to think of some other examples. I have this really awesome brownie recipe that's like almond butter and sweet potatoes. And, it's still sweets. It's just not as much refined sugar. And there's some fiber in there, and there, I just play with it, and I make sure I don't do it on an empty stomach. The other thing I wanted to touch on, I want to back up because I mentioned alcohol. This is kind of a hot spot for me with kids, Lindsay, since you're asking, because we know that it takes all these things to keep our blood sugar stable. Fruit naturally has sugar in it. Eating a fruit, if you eat the whole fruit, you get the fiber of the fruit. It slows down the sugar getting into your bloodstream. If you eat juice, if you drink juice, I'm not saying there aren't nutrients in it. I'm saying I would get my nutrients somewhere else. I would not drink juice. My kids do not drink juice. So let's talk about drinks for just a second, because really all-encompassingly, there's just all you're doing, especially if you're drinking it on an empty stomach, is setting your body up to spike and crash, and they're hungry and they want more sweets, and 45 minutes later, an hour later. So let's say juice, let's say alcohol is really just a sugary, it acts like sugar in the body. It depends on what you're drinking, especially sugary alcoholic drinks. Juice, alcohol, like I really enjoy tea, but like sweet tea. If you are drinking anything but water, like my alcohol, I make sure I've eaten first. I make sure I've had a really nice, balanced, low glycemic dinner, and then I'll enjoy a glass of wine. Absolutely. Um, just know, like for kids, juice is kind of my hot spot. Giving them any kind of juice boxes, anything, it's just a spike. Really, without the fiber or the actual meat, and actually, to be honest, tons of nutrients, nutrient packed, but green juice. It's the sugars, carrots are ridiculously high glycemic if you're not actually eating the carrot. So oftentimes, and this is just absolutely my personal opinion, USANA wrote an article on What's Up USANA. There was a blog on juicing the other day, and unfortunately, you're getting tons of nutrients, but without these macros, your blood sugar kind of messes up. And so your body actually, this is just what I've heard from one of my trusted mentors, but this is what I've heard, is that your body really kind of shuts down because it doesn't have anything to digest, and there's just nothing hitting your bloodstream. Okay, I've gotten off track. So drinks. Okay, so I wanted to address also my other biggest hurdle. This is for Lindsay, and then we will, getting my family to go on the journey with you. I'll just say right now, Lindsay, I started this journey before I had my kids. My husband, I cook all our meals. And other than the fact that he's picky about making sure there's meat somewhere in the meal, he eats whatever I make. And so we're unique in that way. I don't know if that's how your husband is. It's really important to me. He knows it is. And so he lets me roll with that. It's not as important to him, although he does speak volumes of what it does for our health and all of that. But so my family, I started this before I had my kids. So my kids don't really know anything different. I am careful, with kids, it's harder, but I'm careful to not give them an apple without putting some peanut butter on it, or giving them some carrots with some hummus to dip it in, so they have those proteins. They have the fiber and the complex carbs from the fruit or the vegetables, but I just, they've kind of known that from the get-go. That's just kind of how I fed them. So luckily my family's been pretty easy for me. But my biggest hurdle, and this is the last thing I wanted to just kind of touch on before we get into a little bit more Q&A about putting actual meals together, is the emotional part of eating, because that is real, and that for sure was a part of it for me too. Oftentimes our bodies get used to kind of this call and response of feeling stressed and maybe having some cortisol in your system. You've had a long day, you've had a stressful day at work, and so you're craving those high glycemic foods to bring it back up, so you kind of ride that high for a little bit. My biggest hurdle is I for sure used food, sweets, whatever to emotionally cope with stress. And I still do. And my mom, who's watching, will attest to the fact that when I do, on rare occasion, I totally own it. Like, I know what I'm doing. I know this is awful. I'm really stressed. I am going to eat an entire row of Oreos, and I'm going to be over it tomorrow, and I'm going to get back on track. So the emotional piece, the other thing I will say is taking the emotional piece out of maybe eating a balanced meal, but still really kind of craving treating yourself at night. I look for other ways to treat myself. So that's kind of the other part of the practice. I'm gonna skip to a different color. This emotional piece is important. The cravings, a lot of people say it's willpower. You've seen now from the blood sugar stuff, the cravings are really real. That's really hormonal chemical reactions in the body that are really real. But there also is an emotional part of this. So the emotional piece is just practice. So I have found a couple of other things food-wise that work better for me, that just are a healthier alternative. So oftentimes when it's emotional stress for me, I just kind of want to be snacking and filling my mouth. So I grew up on stovetop popcorn. That's one of my favorite go-tos for, I just need to be able to, I make stovetop popcorn and I can snack on it. I love my stovetop popcorn. I put coconut oil and sea salt on top, so I get some oils in there too. I obviously do it after a nice balanced dinner, but I will make a big thing of popcorn. There's hardly no calories. It's healthy. I put coconut oil on it. Eat all the popcorn you want if you just need to be munching all night, okay? So tip 1 is to find like other food replacements. I also mentioned sometimes after dinner when I'm craving sweets, I like dark chocolate almonds. I've just found other ways to kind of, if it's emotionally based, like treat myself, like know that I'm just giving myself a little something. I like to sneak it from the kids. Although my kids now, I must have bribed them one too many times, so they'll eat a meal so they can have a dark chocolate covered almond with me, which I feel fine about because it's a dark chocolate covered almond. But so finding other foods to help you that are just better choices is the first way that I handle the emotional bit. And the other way is, and I learned this from my mentor as well, is sensory, other sensory options. So, and actually I learned this from my mother as well when I was little. So if I've had a really stressful day and what I really want to do is put an entire cake in my stomach, you know, I'll light a special candle. I'll ask my husband to watch the kids so I can take a quick bath. I'll maybe while I'm cooking that night, when I really want to be snacking on sweets while I cook, I'll put on just like a chill playlist on my radio. So this is other sensory stuff like nice music or scents, or like diffuse some essential oils, take a bath, go for a walk, just own it. You know, I think so much of this journey is just practicing and learning how to balance your meals and stuff and work with that and feel your body and have your energy feel more stable and not spike and crash, but also it's just about better taking care of yourself. So that's also a piece of it. Okay, I am going to do 2 things. I'm going to take a break and I'm going to answer some questions. And then I'm going to show you a tool I use. I'm going to talk through some different kinds of meals I make, how I put stuff together, and I'm going to give you a tool I use. I dropped a marker. I'm going to drink some water. I'm going to wait for you guys to ask some questions. And I have the other question I'm going to answer for Lindsay is the question, Lindsay, that you asked on Facebook. I dropped my marker, sorry. The question that you asked on Facebook about how do I eat whole foods all the time? Because it does take a lot of prep. Okay, so I'm going to touch on that here in just a second too. Mom asked, example of a high glycemic breakfast, like a bagel and coffee maybe. Yes, absolutely. The thing about bagels is there's no fiber. It's processed. It's just processed. It acts like sugar. Oh, that's the other thing I forgot to just kind of explain is oftentimes things that aren't sweet per se still really act like high sugar, like sugars in our body. So like a bagel is just highly processed flour or oats or wheat or whatever, but it's so processed, our body doesn't have to break it down at all. There's no fiber there. It just, boom, we can use it. And it turns into sugar in our system, but it's so readily available. The more processed it is, that it acts like sugar. So oftentimes, you know, pastas, potato chips, things that aren't sweet, but that don't have, that are processed and don't have a whole lot of fiber to them, they act like sugar in our body. So you might be a bread, you know, my cravings is chocolate and sugar or sweets. Your cravings might be bread, pasta, potato chips. But those all act like sugar in our system. They're all doing that same stressful spike, crash. So an example of a high glycemic breakfast would be a bagel and coffee, or like I said, if you're having like a cereal, even though there's some milk on there, there's just nothing to cereal. It's just sugary processed flour. I know they've made some healthier ones now, but I don't recommend cereal. Let's see here. I'm trying to think of some other really high glycemic. I mean, I worked at Starbucks in college, so I will say that I saw my fair share of, you know, grande caramel latte and a muffin. And that's another high glycemic meal. There's just not a whole lot to it. So I'm going to tell you in a second. I don't have any other questions right now. I hope that helped. Mom, if that was a good example of high glycemic breakfast. I'll give you some examples of low glycemic breakfast and what I use and what I do just in just a second, just because I don't want to worry about it. The other thing to be conscious of, if you're a coffee drinker, because I am, is when I start my day with a cup of coffee, coffee just naturally kind of lowers our blood sugar. And so if you don't eat, if you just drink coffee on a lower, and you wake up at your fasting blood sugar at the bottom of that ideal range, and you get up and have coffee on an empty stomach and you don't eat for a while, good chance you're going to crash too. And realize you're really hungry. You kind of get the jitters maybe from the caffeine and the low blood sugar. And so that's just not a great way to start the day either. That's why they say breakfast is so important. It's really this reason. So it's not even just having a breakfast, it's having a healthy, balanced breakfast. So I've covered a lot. I don't have any other questions. How are y'all doing? That was a lot of information. I'm wondering how long I've even taken here. Okay, longer than I thought I might. We don't have any questions right now. I'm going to just give you a practical idea of maybe it's hard for me to do an ideal day, but I'm just going to share with you. I get up in the morning and have a shake, a balanced shake, and I'll get to that in just a second. Some of the other high quality breakfasts I'll have are, my kids love toast, and there actually is an Ezekiel complete protein, like cinnamon raisin breakfast toast that I love to give them. That's actually certified low glycemic. You can find it in the frozen section at your grocery store. I do that for the kids sometimes with maybe some high quality yogurt and some fruit on the side. Oftentimes though, I do my shake mid-morning around. So if I have a shake right off the bat with my coffee in the morning, I might 2 or 3 hours later have a handful of almonds and maybe a couple of slices of apple. And I'll do that with the kids, or I'll give them apple and peanut butter and I'll have the same thing. 2 or 3 hours later at lunch, my kids, we're just used to it. I just tend to do plates of like deli meat, cheese, or we'll do sugar snap peas. They love. I'll do a little bit of hummus and like some veggies, and sometimes I'll let them have some of those cheddar bunny crackers. But I'll do the same. I have some multi-grain crackers I love, and I'll do hummus and some veggies and some meat and cheese. It's just an example. Honestly, that's pretty typical of us, though. I just make these little plates. Mid-afternoon is a little bit trickier, but I tend to do, okay, thank you, Kitty. Mid-afternoon, same kind of thing as morning. I mean, a handful of nuts, or I'll do, or if I didn't do it at lunch, I'll do some hummus and crackers to just get me to dinner time. And then at dinner, even though dinner is not typically supposed to be the biggest meal, your lunch really maybe should be, but at dinner our whole family eats together. And so I usually, I'll grill some meat. Sometimes I'll do a salad with it, or I always do a veggie on the side. Every once in a while I'll do rice, but it's kind of, we eat pretty simply. It allows me to, like, I'll go to the grocery store and I'll buy, 4 or 5 meats for the week and 4 or 5 veggies. And it allows me to be a little bit more just like what I'm feeling that night too. I don't do a whole lot of like big recipes for meals. Not that often, I don't think. I'll have to think about all that. I was trying to give you an average day. But so the one thing I will answer, still no questions? Y'all don't want to. The one thing I will answer is Lindsay's question on Facebook was, it takes a lot of prep to have whole foods around all the time. And how do you get around that? And I absolutely do. So I always do better towards the beginning of the week, or like when I've just gone to the grocery store. I like to prep our veggies. It does take some time. It's just so much easier to throw meals together quickly, especially when you have little kids who are hungry on a dime and want it right now. But the other thing I do is I have resources. So I said I wake up and I have a shake in the day. You may or may not notice this if you're watching this, if you know me or you follow me online. I am a distributor for USANA Health Sciences. All of what I'm telling you tonight, I learned from them. And I say that with tons of added drama because I can't thank them enough. So the reason why I learned this from them is because they created a food line to target the diabetes epidemic, and it's all low glycemic and it's all balanced macros. And it's really, really clean, and it's really high quality fiber. I start my day, so the shake protein, they have shakes and bars. The shake base comes in 3 different proteins. So there's a plant-based pea and potato protein, I believe. A plant-based protein. There's a whey protein, which is what I'm using right now, and there's a soy protein, depending on what you need. I start my day with this only because I don't want to have to figure it out in the morning. I don't know. There's something about the mornings. I'm a coffee drinker. I don't want to deal with it. I make a shake. Oftentimes I'm getting out of the house with the kids and I haven't had time to eat yet. I'll make a shake. This is just how I start my day. I also start my day this way because it sets me up going forward for the rest of the day. I eat better the whole rest of the day. I promise. So I'm a distributor for USANA. I highly, highly recommend their food line, the shakes and the bars. But I share all this information with you for free tonight because I don't want you to live on shakes and bars. I don't live on shakes and bars. I do have a shake almost every morning for breakfast, but I don't want you to live on shakes and bars. I live on 90% whole foods. And there are other ways I get around, having to have food prepped for the kids, but for the most part, I have resources too. My kids, so there are 3 types of bars too: dark chocolate, coconut cashew is amazing and by far my favorite right now, and a peanut butter bar. My kids love the bars. I used to do it after snack. I'd split one up. They thought it was dessert. The bars, the dark chocolate ones, it's like having a brownie, or they think it is, but they're getting protein and fiber and healthy fats. So this whole line boosts coconut oils for healthy fats. Just as a side note, I don't know if you're wondering, but my shake du jour right now, I had it this morning, is water, frozen mango, a little bit of banana, and 2 scoops of whey protein. So I have a shake. So we have resources. Now, the only other thing I want to say, and then I'm going to take some questions, or answer some questions. The only other thing I want to say about the shakes and bars is that I learned all of this through a program they developed. It's 7 days. It's called the My Smart Start. It uses their food or their shakes and bars. But what it is the science behind this blood sugar thing. I'm going to redraw this just for a second because it's just kind of got crazy. But the science behind this blood sugar thing is fascinating. So they did some studies. If you can keep your blood sugars stable for 5 to 7 days, if you can kind of practice being in this range for 5 to 7 days, it resets this whole cycle. It'll actually reset your insulin resistance. When you're doing this all the time, you're you're like crying wolf. Your insulin just starts not believing you, which is why when you end up being diabetic, you have to take extra insulin to get your blood sugar back down. It's called insulin resistance. You build up an insulin resistance. They have found that if you can keep your blood sugar stable for 5 to 7 days, you actually reset your insulin resistance. And we have a 7-day program where you do a shake for breakfast, a bar. Well, you get 2 shakes a day, a shake for lunch, and then you make your own low glycemic meal for 7 days. And it's called the My Smart Start. So it'll get rid of your cravings when you stay here, resets all of this, and it'll allow you to get a better start at changing your diet. And that's how I learned all of this. And it has absolutely changed my whole entire world. I've done the My Smart Start probably 3 times over the last 7 years. Every once in a while, I'll get off track. I'll find myself craving. I'll have a hard time getting back on track. And so I'll do a reset. And sometimes I'll catch it early and I'll just do 3 or 4, or, I'll do a shorter version of just a couple shakes a day and a bar for a snack. The other thing I love about the My Smart Start is that for 7 days, you really practice eating 4 or 5 times a day. every 3 hours. So you'll have a breakfast, you'll get up and have a shake in the morning, you'll have a mid-morning bar, a shake for lunch, maybe another bar. I think you have 1 to 2 bars a day in the 7-day, and maybe like a handful of almonds and a piece of apple, and then a high glycemic or a low glycemic meal. So you're eating 5 times a day, smaller amounts. You're staying full the whole time, so you're not crashing and needing. It's a really, really powerful program. That's where I learned all of this. So if that interests you at all, first of all, if you go to the showcase in the little matrix up at the top with the 9 squares, if you click on that and go to showcase, I've included a link to my USANA website where I have a page dedicated to the macro food line. The second link is a YouTube video to kind of a macro, a USANA video that goes a little bit further into depth about the whole entire line is non-GMO, low glycemic, gluten-free. It's the cleanest, most brilliant, beautiful line. You can learn a little bit more about that. But what else was I going to say? No, in the showcase, there's links, but also, so I say all that because we have a group starting the My Smart Start, the 7-day thing. It starts August 7th, which is like a Sunday night, but you would have to order this week to get your reset your My Smart Start kit in time to do the 7 days. The other cool thing about the 7-day program is you also get micros. You get supplements for the 7 days. So you will, for 7 days, have your micros and your macros. You get grocery lists, meal ideas, all kinds of really amazing support. It's a really, really awesome program, all for like $120. I think I really should know that price for sure. But anyhow, I absolutely use it. That's where I learned all this. It's been a really powerful piece of how I manage all of this. The other thing I didn't say, so when you keep your blood sugar stable like this, we talked about insulin and cortisol being fat storage hormones. When you keep your blood sugar stable, your body isn't stressed and scared, and it releases all that weight it's been storing and holding. That's why this is so powerful weight-wise. That's why I put up that picture of me flexing, like, look at my abs. It's not really my abs, okay? I work out 2 to 3 times a week for maintenance because that's what keeps me sane and happy, or else I would hurt people. That's how I manage my stress and my anxiety and stay sane. But I'm not in the gym cranking out, trying to get ripped or anything. That's all because my body isn't stressed because of how I'm eating, and it's just releasing all that extra stuff it doesn't need. So people lose 5 to 10 pounds on the 7-day My Smart Start thing, especially if it's new to them. I highly, highly recommend it. Okay, I have a couple of questions. Do you eat out a lot? No. That's how I get out of that. It's okay that you're full of questions. So Lindsay, thank you for your questions, actually. Thank you. So Lindsay says, do you eat out a lot, and how do you get around that? So when I do eat out, in fact, I almost shared today online a picture of because I did eat out Saturday night. I'm just careful about making sure that my meals don't have just a lot of bread or a lot of, they're high protein meals. If you get a salad, salads are awesome, but put protein on it. Ask for chicken or shrimp or whatever you want to do. Just take this knowledge and look at the meals and think, okay, what's in here? Last night I went out and I had taquitos al pastor. They were incredible. So lots of pork, corn tortillas. What else did I have with it? But it just look at your meals. The other party tip about not doing stuff on an empty stomach is, like, holiday times, you're going to go to a party, you're going to probably eat high glycemic stuff, maybe drink some alcoholic drinks, eat a bunch of nuts or almonds or something beforehand so that you're not an empty stomach and you've got some sustenance and some fiber and stuff in there. I forgot about the berry nutty bar. Thank you, Mom. So we have a coconut cashew, a dark chocolate, a peanut butter, and there's also a Whole Foods berry nutty bar. How to food prep, stay organized and on track. It's so good. So like I said, I tend to, because we eat fresh foods, I tend to go to the grocery store every like 5 to 7 days. I tend to get Whole Foods. Not a lot of, I really don't almost buy anything processed except maybe the crackers the kids eat sometimes. I'm trying to think about what else we do. Actually, Lindsay, you are a Costco lover. There's some awesome stuff at Costco, girl. Edamame, if you're a pasta lover, there's edamame spaghetti. I just found some quinoa macaroni the other day that's gluten-free. It has rice flour in it, which is pretty high glycemic, but it's got some quinoa in it and some extra fiber. It's just about, it's an art, like I said, it's a practice. So I buy mostly Whole Foods. I do my shakes. I do use bars. I use tools, you know. Oh, I do have a granola bar I love for the kids. I don't know, really, I've not like had it tested for its glycemic level, but they have them at Costco too, Rabbits Jr., 18 Rabbits Jr. or something. My kids love those granola bars, and there's so much good fiber in there, I don't worry about it. And not a lot, and no sugars, no like refined sugars, just agaves and that kind of thing. So I do food prep. I will tell you, if you're willing to take half an hour, 45 minutes, and just wash your veggies and fruit and all that, it makes it so much easier throughout the week when you are hungry, or if you do get hungry, or you start to feel that afternoon slump, when you would normally maybe reach for something sweet. It's so much easier to grab some sugar snap peas and dip it in hummus if it's available, or whatever. It's just so much easier when stuff is available. So I do recommend food prep if you're willing to do that. I don't always get to it. It just means I have to do it before I eat. I wish I could give you more insight into that. And as far as staying organized, the other thing I will say about me, I'm just going to fess up, is I don't necessarily need a whole lot of variety. When I find something my body really likes that works with me, I just kind of stick with it. You know, I love my smoothies. I'll change up sometimes my smoothie recipes, or I'll put different fruit in depending on what I have. But for the most part, my family eats a lot of the same foods. And that's often how I stay kind of organized and on track too, is because we eat a lot. You know, like I said, oftentimes our meals are just a meat paired with a vegetable, paired with maybe some rice. And so as long as I have all the different pieces, it's easy for me to put stuff together without a whole lot of fuss. Okay, I'm gonna check. There are some, gosh, this is awesome. I did not think that I had an hour's worth of content tonight, and I have just jabbered. Thank you for your questions. Mom says there's a good cookbook called Low Glycemic Meals in Minutes. Awesome. And we do, like I said, also, if you decide you want to do the My Smart Start, the 7-day program, and order that this week, it comes with some meal recommendations, some grocery shopping lists, a really awesome glycemic index list, just so you can kind of see, you can look at all the different fruits and vegetables and foods and where they rate and what's, you'd be surprised, actually, or I have been a couple of times. And so that's included. There's a ton of good resources we can offer you. You don't have to buy a My Smart Start right away. If you are interested in some of that and you want to just buy a bag of shakes or bars to just try or something, you know, but you want some extra resources, please just ask. Yes. So Mom also said, thank you, Mom. I don't know what I'd do without you on here. The good support. So we offer tons of resources. The other really cool thing about doing the My Smart Start is we have a really awesome community of other people doing this or practicing it or doing the group. So we actually have a Facebook group. There are some live calls. You get to get on a live call 3 times throughout the week and ask questions with Dr. Karen Wolf, who I learned all this from. And it's just, this whole thing is an incredible value. And like I said, it's just been monumental in my life. But you get to ask her questions and get on with all the other people doing it that week. And then we have a Facebook group where, you know, people post recipes or ideas for meals or what they're eating, or they ask for support, or they post a brag like, hey, I'm down 5 pounds. And we support each other that way. So there's also that you can kind of tap into if you decide that the My Smart Foods line might be a good resource for you. I honestly don't know how I do it without the My Smart Foods line. And I only say that because Lindsay is absolutely correct when she asked me on Facebook today, how do you keep food prepped all the time? Or how do you, the truth is, and I could probably lean on them a little more. I'm at home with my kids. It's a little easier for me to make meals and prepare stuff when I need it. We live in a convenient, fast-paced, very busy world. I know you are all busy. I know you all want to eat healthy. That's why this line and all of the education that comes with it is so important to me. I want it to work for you, and I want you to have something, a bar in your purse, so that when you're out and you start feeling hungry and crashy and you think, you might not be able to eat again until you get home or something, that you have something you can use so that your body doesn't go into that place, that cortisol place. So anyhow, resources, support, community. I don't see any other questions, and we've been here an hour. Does anybody else want to ask me anything live before we go? If you signed up for to join us tonight and you're on live, you probably have, you either follow me on social media and you can find me there, or you have my cell phone number. You texted your email to my cell phone number, and I have your email address. But please reach out to me with any questions. If you're interested in ordering a My Smart Start to do it with the August group, you would need to order by the end of this week, by like Thursday or Friday, probably, for it to ship and get here in time. Other than that, I do have a video coming up soon that's really for my customers that are used to using the My Smart Foods, where I'm going to talk a little bit more about things I mix it with and how I use it and what I think and all that. So you can look for that if you're interested. The whole line is really powerful. This is really powerful. I really encourage you to use me. I encourage you to take this into your lives and play with it and practice it. If you need a good jump start to get those cravings out of the way so you can practice this a little more, then My Smart Start's the way to go. If not, use me, ask questions. A lot of it too depends on what you like. I say apple and peanut butter. You may not be a peanut butter fan. How else could you come up with a way to get protein in a snack with apples? So play with it, ask questions. I encourage you to seek this. It's a way to maintain or lose weight and still eat foods and not feel, I for one, don't feel like I'm on a diet or like I'm deprived or like I'm not getting what I want. And to still just treat and take really good care of yourself and have energy. You'll be amazed, especially if you do the My Smart Start. Those 7 days will blow your mind about how full and energetic and amazing you can feel on shakes because they're balanced macros. And so it's a great experience too, to just take you forward on your journey. But so that's all for me tonight. We've been here for an hour. No more questions. Please feel free to hit the showcase thing and look at some of those other resources and ask me for resources and be in touch. I want to know if it works for you. Y'all have a good night, and thank you for joining me. This is one of my favorite conversations to have, and I couldn't be happier to be able to do this. So y'all have a good night. Love ya.